consciousness, you could say. Um, so I had a huge resistance towards feeling heavy emotions, and I would just spend so much time distracting myself from them. Hey Jennifer, nice to see you again. Um, and I was very scared that if those heavy feelings that I would feel sometimes would take me over, it felt like I would be eaten alive, or it felt like a black hole that I'm gonna get sucked into and never get out of. And I heard many people I work with share very similar fears, and so it can feel quite scary to open up ourselves to heavy feelings that we might feel inside, a heaviness, an exhaustion. Um, and also because we've been so trained, so conditioned to see being active as positive and good, so therefore being inactive and feeling heavy, feeling unmotivated, feeling sense of powerlessness and hopelessness, that's seen as very negative and bad. And I realized that those collective beliefs had a huge impact on me, and they were shaping, they were coloring how I would experience these heavy feelings. Um, and it was one time in the middle of a very tiring period after breakup that I realized, like in the midst of it, that the only reason why I was feeling bad was because I believed I shouldn't be unmotivated. I shouldn't be tired and exhausted. And I should have the desire to do something. But truly I didn't, just like many people after an intense breakup. But because I was fighting it, and because I was carrying this collective judgment within me, I felt like so flawed. And we judge people as who experience this, that they have a brain disease and that there's something wrong. And so it's like society is trying at all costs to get rid of these feelings and just sees them as purely negative. So that's how I experienced it. I experienced it as there's something wrong with me and I'm flawed and I'm broken. Um, and once I was able though to just feel the pure emotion of this heavy energy, which was basically just this intense desire to do nothing and to just rest and just be and not do any single thing. Well, once I could allow that to be there, actually a deep relaxation came over me. A deep, profound peace came over me. Profound sense of peace. Because I wasn't trying to do anything. I wasn't trying to change anything. So it was actually very healing to just be. And so I discovered something beautiful within those heavy feelings. And from that space of, it kind of slowed me down. It's like my body was saying, like, I don't want you to go on like you've been going on. I don't want you to repeat the same patterns that you've been doing. Just slow down. That is like what my body was telling me, but I was fighting against it. I was pushing against it because I felt I need to be doing something. I grew up in Germany, which is such a high productivity culture, and I felt so worthless when I was not doing anything productive. And I know many people feel the same way. So I felt utterly worthless because all my worth had been equated to what I can do. And so when I didn't want to do anything or couldn't do anything, felt just utter. I felt like I shouldn't exist. I'm worthless. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed. Um, I felt like a bad human being. Felt selfish. So all this conditioning was actually the suffering. It wasn't the pure heaviness, the desire to rest. That wasn't suffering. Um, and then actually I discovered a beautiful quality in that heaviness, and I it calmed me down a lot. It actually brought me a lot of peace. So people tell me often that they feel like calm around me and they have a peaceful energy. But actually, this is my secret. My secret is that what calmed me down was to allow myself to feel heavy and exhausted, and and now I honor this desire within me that wants to rest. I give myself time and space to rest. I don't push against my tiredness, against my exhaustion. If I feel unmotivated, I allow myself to feel utterly unmotivated to do anything. And I do nothing. And I enjoy doing nothing. But it it took some inner work to be able to get there. Because I used to feel so guilty and terrible when doing nothing. Um, so what I needed to do is like allow myself to do nothing, to just rest and be, and like truly resting, because often when I was like resting, I was still consuming something, I was still halfway doing something, I was still entertaining myself. So it was more like a distraction. It wasn't true rest. And I think that's so rare in today's world that people are truly resting, without any external inputs, just literally doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. And now the more I've been able to allow that, the more my body and mind can rejuvenate. And then it's actually like I go through this period of doing nothing, of completely relaxing. And then afterwards, it's actually like a phoenix is rising from the ashes. So I come out of this feeling newborn, feeling energized in a natural way, in a beautiful way. So I look forward to guiding you through this today. And as we're going through this, there might be other emotions that come up in the process, like I just shared. Like maybe feelings of guilt or shame or sadness, resistance, negative self-talk might arise, judgmental voices, all kinds of things can arise, memories, but whatever arises, painful memories, whatever arises is exactly what wants to be seen, what wants to be experienced, what wants to be heard. So when we kind of calm down and we do nothing and we're not engaged in all this habitual activity, it can bring up things that feel uncomfortable, because often a lot of what we do and are engaged in can be a form of not wanting to feel something without even knowing it. And so when we do nothing, when we allow a space of rest, it can bring up a lot. But that's good. That's good. Because that is where the healing happens. So I just wanted to preface that. And there's one more thing I want to share about heavy feelings. And hello, by the way, everyone who just came. Hello, Kina. Hello, Patrice. Hello, Priscilla. Hello, Anami and Telenoni. Nice to see you again. Oh, thank you, Anami. I'm glad this resonates. Hello, Dee. So lovely to have you all here. I love sharing this with you. So, so there's all these benefits actually to heavy feelings, what I discovered. So the first one is just the rest and rejuvenation, right, that my body and mind got from it. But then there's even more benefits, like it slowed me down, it calmed me down, and through this slowing down, I was able to process deeper things that I was kind of running away from, but that were really life-changing for me to process. So when we lean into those things that we run away from, that's where all the potential is, that's where all the healing is, that's where all the potential for big life changes actually lies. And so that was the second benefit. And then the third benefit was, it was actually very healing. So let's say, in my own life I experienced abusive situations, I experienced traumatizing things, abuse, and so forth, and usually when we're going through something like this, like afterwards there will be a period of the body feeling heavy, and that's part of the healing process. And often though, because of the way our society views heavy feelings, we are almost pushed to get out of these feelings as soon as possible. But what I discovered is when I was pushing these feelings away so hard and not allowing myself to be in that space, then I couldn't really process what happened. And then I would just repeat the same patterns over and over again. I would get into the same relationships where I was being taken advantage of, where I was being manipulated. I was creating the same situations in my work where I was burning myself out, neglecting myself. I was repeating the same destructive health patterns. And so actually this heaviness gave me the time for deeper reflection. And also, and I've noticed this is something that there can be a lot of resistance to, actually allowing myself to feel how powerless I was in those abusive situations, and allowing myself to really feel how helpless I was. It was actually healing, because it like eased off the self-blame, the self-judgment, and also the blaming of someone else, and it just made me feel like this is just what happened, and I was totally powerless. And from that space of kind of allowing my powerlessness to be seen, a lot of self-love, and a lot of, in the form of grief, in the form of grief, could come about. Because before, when I wasn't allowing myself to see how powerless I actually was, I didn't have compassion towards myself, and I was blaming myself, and I was judging myself. And this goes kind of against a lot of the popular personal development trends, where it's all about taking responsibility, everything is inside your control, don't be a victim, where it's a little bit this victim shaming going on. Well, actually, I found, and maybe that works, for kind of everyday life situations, but if you have experienced trauma, deep trauma, if you were abused, taken advantage of, actually denying that you were a victim of the abuse, that's kind of like slapping yourself in the face for it. That's not kindness towards ourselves, that's not compassion. So that was actually part of the healing for me, to see that I was a victim, and that I couldn't do anything, and I was helpless. And that was a very important stage of my healing. Yes. So I invite you all today to do something during this meditation that might feel unusual and might seem strange, which is actually to allow these heavy feelings to be there for a moment, and actually leaning towards those heavy feelings, allowing them some space to be there. And it will probably bring up some resistance at some point, some discomfort, some fear, and that's also fine. You don't need to be super excited about it. It's totally natural that resistance and fears and other emotions will arise, and I will guide you through this. And we are all doing it together, so that helps. You can imagine it's 60 people doing it together, and we're gonna together visit those places inside of us that might feel a little bit scary, might feel a little bit uncomfortable. But hopefully doing it together will be supportive for you. So, enemy, great question. There will be a recording available. I will upload it on my Insight Timer profile, like the audio version of this meditation and talk. And if you want to be informed about it, it will probably happen in a couple of days. You can click on my profile and press the follow button, and then you will get noticed about all uploads I do and future events as well. Okay, you're welcome. You can put yourself in a comfortable position, either sitting, or you're also welcome to lie down. Most important is that you're totally relaxed. Whatever is most relaxing for you, most comfortable for you. And then you can start by closing your eyes, and just to arrive here in this moment, we can just start by taking a deep breath in and breathing out. And taking another deep breath in and breathing out. And then what we will do together is we will travel back in time, and you can travel back to a memory where you really felt a sense of heaviness, or maybe a situation currently in your life where you feel the sense of heaviness, where you feel the sense of exhaustion, feeling powerless, helpless, motivationless, feel like giving up. And you can bring this situation or past memory to your mind wherever you feel the greatest sense of heaviness right now. And you can allow yourself to remember all the details of this situation, of the circumstance. And allowing this heaviness to be there. And you can say to yourself internally, I'm allowed to feel heavy. I'm allowed to feel heavy. It's allowing this profound sense of heaviness to drag down every part of your body, of your being, to slow down every part of you. And if this feels uncomfortable, you can say to yourself, I'm allowed to feel uncomfortable. Allowing the sense of powerlessness to to be there for a moment. You're allowed to feel powerless. You're allowed to feel deeply exhausted. Giving yourself permission to feel utterly exhausted. So exhausted that there is not an ounce of energy left to do anything, to change anything. All desire to do anything, to be anything, just exhausts itself. And you are allowed to be exactly where you are. And you don't need to be anywhere different than right where you are. The mind is always attempting to be somewhere else, to change what is happening, to control what is happening. And it takes up so much energy to control life, to control what's happening. It's so tiring, so draining, and you're allowed to feel how exhausting this is now for a moment. It's like you want the exhaustion. You want to feel the complete exhaustion. Like you enjoy the exhaustion. You enjoy not needing to change anything for a moment. It can feel like failing to change what's happening, failing to control. So if it feels like this, you can allow yourself to fail completely. Allowing yourself to give up for a moment. You're allowed to give up on your hopes, on your dreams for a moment. Letting go of all these expectations of where you should be, what you should be doing. Letting go for a moment of any expectation that you placed upon yourself, that you placed upon your life, and how it should be like. to allowing life to take over what is happening. You can hand your control over to life, just giving up the need to control for a moment. And just for a tiny moment, you can allow life to be out of control. If that feels scary or threatening, you're also allowed to feel scared. You're allowed to feel threatened. And you can say to yourself, I'm allowed to feel scared. Doing nothing and giving up control can feel very scary. In that case, you can feel the fear in your body and also welcome this, allowing this fear to embrace you. The fear wants to protect you from all the times you were judged, you were hurt for doing nothing, for feeling heavy. Maybe you experienced that you were never allowed to do nothing. You were never allowed to feel powerless or helpless. All those memories are allowed to be there as well. When you were shamed for being tired, for being exhausted. Those moments when you were hurt. For just being you. If there is any pain that arises, you are allowed to feel this pain. You're allowed to feel any pain that might be inside of you, or any tension that might be inside of you. Do you have time now, in this moment, to be with this pain for a moment? And love that pain. Acknowledge the pain. To allow the pain to embrace you. Allowing it to hurt. You don't even need to understand what you are experiencing in this moment, or why you are experiencing it. You can just allow whatever is inside of you to be there for a moment. If other feelings arise, of sadness, or you get in touch with needs that you have. Whatever is arising, everything is welcome. There is nothing special that needs to happen right now. You're just allowing yourself to be with whatever is happening inside of you. And whatever is inside of you wants to be embraced, wants to be felt, wants to be seen and heard. If you're feeling emotional, you can say to yourself, I'm allowed to feel emotional. And if you feel blocked, if you just feel numb right now, if you feel nothing, you can say to yourself, I'm allowed to feel blocked. I'm allowed to feel numb. I'm allowed to feel nothing. If your body feels frozen, you're allowed to feel frozen. You can imagine that you lost control over your body for a moment, and your body is just doing its own thing. Your body is just feeling and experiencing whatever it wants to feel and experience. You can completely trust that whatever is happening inside of you right now is here for your benefit. Any thought, any emotion, any sensation, it's here to protect you from something, or it's here to heal you from something. This intelligence of the body knows exactly what it's doing, and it might not make any sense to you right now, what you're experiencing. It might not seem logical, it might not seem reasonable, and that's okay. You can give yourself permission to experience things that seem illogical, that seem irrational, unreasonable. You're allowed to feel emotional. Things that happened in your past are allowed to arise. You're allowed to see how these events in the past where you felt powerless and helpless where you were powerless and helpless, how they affected you. You're allowed to see all these things. The greatest act of self-love is allow yourself to feel and experience everything free of judgment. You can notice if there's any kind of subtle judgment or maybe even strong judgment towards yourself right now and what you're experiencing. If there's any unconscious self-criticism, if there's any part of you that is rejecting what you're experiencing right now. And that part is also allowed to be there, that part that doesn't want to experience what you're experiencing right now. So if you feel the impulse of wanting to run away, wanting to get out of here, that is also allowed to be there. You're allowed to want to run away. You're allowed to feel uncomfortable. Whatever impulses are inside of you, they're all allowed to be felt. Even the sense of I don't want this, I hate this, even this feeling is allowed. Even the part that might says, what am I doing here? What's the point of all of this? Even this is allowed. All parts of you are allowed here. Even the conflicting voices, the inner dialogue, all of that is allowed to be here. The inner fight, the inner battle, the chaos, all of this is allowed to be here. And then, whenever you are ready, in your own time, can slowly open your eyes again. this practice that we're doing here is very deep. And it's kind of a different approach towards our emotions than what most of us have been trained in. It's like learning to be at peace with whatever is happening, allowing yourself to be at peace with whatever is happening, allowing yourself to be at peace in this very moment, while there is discomfort in the body, while there are emotions, while you might experience a tension, a pain. Being at peace. Being at peace means the absence of fighting what is happening. All our life we learn to fight against the world, fight against ourselves, fight against our emotions. And this is kind of the opposite of this. It can feel like giving up fighting. It's actually quite nice to give up fighting. It's not as bad as we learned it is. And that is basically peace. To give up fighting. And it doesn't mean that we become passive people in life. I'm just meaning fighting against our external experience. So it doesn't mean that we're not active in life or making things pleasant for ourselves or that we need to endure things. I'm not meaning that. It's more that in the middle of life, as we're experiencing life, as sadness arises, as heaviness arises, as fear arises, we're allowing actually those emotions to touch us. We're allowing life to touch us, to move us, to shape us, rather than fighting against what we're feeling. It's like being true to ourselves. Thank you so much, Griya, for your donation. And thank you, Anami, so much for your donation. It's really kind and sweet of you. I appreciate it. I love doing these live streams with all of you. So, this is how I discovered lasting peace, was when I was actually surrendering to these feelings within me that I was fighting against all my life. Because that takes up a lot of energy, this fighting against what we're feeling. And that is what creates a restlessness in the mind and a restlessness in the body. And I I want to make sure there's a good reason often why we are not at peace, why we are feeling restless, why we're in battle with ourselves. It's not even really our own fault, because the whole world is in that state. So the whole world is fighting against itself. So to allow yourself to be at peace is actually quite revolutionary. To allow yourself to be at peace with where you are, with the way you are, that can take a lot of courage to do that. And what I discovered is that, and this is very deep, is that I wasn't actually allowed to be at peace. I wasn't allowed to be at peace. In a lot of circumstances, a lot of people didn't actually want me to be at peace. Alright? I had a friend, and he was at a workplace, and the employer said to him, "You're looking too relaxed. You must not be doing your job right." So it's not like it's all our fault. There's just a lot of environments, a lot of people who actively are trying to get us out of peace, and who might be judging us if we are at peace, because it can actually be very triggering for people to be around someone who is at peace. And I know that because it was for me, because that was the case with my own teachers who were really at peace. It was very triggering for me, because in their presence of peacefulness, I could see everything in me that wasn't at peace, and I could feel how uncomfortable I was with my own self, with my own emotions. And so, as you are becoming more at peace with yourself, it's not necessarily that the world always responds positively towards it. It's not like everyone will be saying, "Wow, you're so at peace, you're inspiring me." It's not like everyone will bow down in admiration and express their gratitude and seeing you as a profound inspiration. It can be the complete opposite. It can make people angry, it can make people furious. Because if you are allowing yourself to be at peace, and someone else who's not allowing themselves to be at peace encounters that, they might even feel a desire to destroy your peace. They might feel uncomfortable in your peacefulness, and they might want to get you out of your peace as a way to comfort themselves. So I'm saying this because I don't want to make it sound like it's just a choice, right? Like it's just something you can just decide to be at peace from now on, tomorrow, and you will always will be. There might be real reasons that have been blocking your peace, that have been blocking you from being in love with yourself, being kind with yourself. So it's important to acknowledge that, because otherwise it might lead to self-blame, right? Like, why can't I be at peace? Why am I so restless? Why, and saying that in a judgmental kind of way. So if you currently don't feel at peace, if you don't feel rested, just know that there's probably a reason for it. There's probably a good reason for it. And so, what I like to do, with people, when I work with people on this, and help and see what is in the way of being at peace. So let's say there's a sense of restlessness, or a sense of fighting against yourself. I like to kind of turn it around and ask, what is the sense of restlessness, of being at war with yourself? What is this trying to protect you from? Because actually it is protecting you from something. Either something that's currently happening in your life, or something, in a lot of cases, that happened to you in your past. I'm just gonna give some examples of this from my own life to make it more relatable. So then when I was in school, especially in my younger years, people would say to me, the teachers would say to me, you're too slow. Like they said, you're doing a good job, but you're just too slow, Julian. So from a young age, I was just pushed to be faster, to be somewhere else than where I am, to not allow myself to be as I am. And so I just heard this so many times, you're too slow, you're too slow. And so this judgment has affected me, and it created a sense of restlessness within me, because I felt I'm not allowed to be slow. I'm not allowed to slow down. Maybe when I was just relaxing at home, doing nothing, my parents would sometimes say, what are you doing? Why you're not playing with the other children? What's wrong with you? Why are you not doing something? But I was just enjoying myself. So oftentimes we experience things like this, where other people, the world around us, takes us out of our peacefulness. And when I go, I do a lot of sessions with people on these things, and when we go really deep into it, right, there's always something like this. Like if you feel a sense of restlessness, or it's difficult for you to be at peace, it's difficult for you to be calm, there's a reason for it. The body is not stupid. The body is not trying to make your life hard, even though it might seem like it, even though it might really feel like your body and your emotions are making your life hard. They're all there for a reason. There's something that they want to protect you from. There's something that they want to communicate to you. But because we've been so trained to see emotions as something irrational, as something like lower, lower human emotions. Because we've been so trained to judge emotions and to feel like we should be this emotionless people, emotionless beings. It can be very hard to feel our emotions and to see how they're serving us. All our life we all heard things like, don't be sad, don't be scared, don't be tired, don't be angry, don't be, dot, 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 dot. So it's like, no wonder feeling our emotions and being at peace with ourselves can be so difficult and challenging, because the whole world told us to not do that. So this is quite radical here, this meditation that we just did, because it kind of goes completely against all conditioning, everything, for the most part, in most people's life that I work with and that I see, and in my own life it goes completely against the conditioning. Like, why would I allow myself to feel heavy? Why would I allow myself to feel sad? Most people, if you would go out and you would just go to a random person in the street and tell them, oh, I just did this meditation, it was so great, I was allowing myself to feel heavy, I was allowing myself to feel totally sad, I was allowing myself to feel pain, they would be like, what? Why would you do that? So collectively, the collective consciousness, for the most part, doesn't see the value of allowing emotions, of feeling emotions. The socially accepted responses towards strong emotions are like usually distraction, suppression, and just pretending like that they are not there, Usually the first response I have noticed when I, was trying to share something deep, something emotional with people, something maybe that happened in my past, usually the first response I get is, forget about it. So, not anymore, because now I'm surrounded by very conscious people in my life, but that is a response that probably every single person here has heard at some point, is just forget about it. And so it's like this whole collective consciousness is still seeing trauma and heavy emotions, strong emotions, as something that we should just forget about. And so most of the world is living in a state of complete denial, of emotional suppression, of emotional avoidance, of endless distractions. And that is believed to be healing. So the funny thing about it is that most people would say that they are healed and that there's nothing in the past affecting them. And interestingly, it's actually the most conscious people who are the most aware of their trauma, about the past and how things are still affecting them, their patterns. So it can be very vulnerable to encounter these things, to allow ourselves to see, wow, this thing that happened to me as a child, this is affecting me, and this is making me feel powerless in this moment. It can be very vulnerable to allow ourselves to see those things let alone share that with anyone. And sometimes we might not even be able to share it because the people around us would judge it, and we might not have a safe space or person we can share it with. So in a way, that is actually what is making the healing hard and difficult. Like if everyone would be doing it, it would be quite effortless. If everyone would be healing, feeling their emotions, welcoming all these things, it would just be the normal thing to do. But because it isn't right now, and it's still quite rare, especially this very deep healing work, it's very rare actually. That is what's making it difficult, because it's like, am I doing this right? Will this lead somewhere? It feels kind of lonely, It feels kind of strange. Like, why would I feel these things? No one else is feeling this. Everyone else is just, seeming to be happy. Yeah, toxic positivity, like Lisa saying, it's a great term for it. So it's like, or like Priscilla is saying, narcissist. It's like, to some degree, not so. Narcissism is kind of pretending to be. Narcissism is like a mask, right? It's a mask. It's an image of what we want the world to believe about us. And we all learn actually to do that. So actually the whole society has quite narcissistic traits. We all learn to like hide our emotions, hide our sadness, hide our fears, hide our anger, hide all pain from us, hide all our traumas. And in a way you could even say that is the beginning of narcissism, is to pretend to be something that we are not. It's like a betrayal of ourselves. And there's a spectrum of narcissism, and on the very extreme end of narcissism, there's a complete detachment of emotions. There's a complete where like the whole life is an act. The whole life is basically an act to actually in the end receive attention and love, because we feel the way we are is unlovable. And so the greatest act of self-love is actually not to try to be a person that is loved and accepted. The greatest act of self-love is to love yourself right now, with all your shortcomings, with all your patterns that you are still working on, with all your unhealed parts, with all parts that you feel ashamed about. That's the true self-love. And such incredible healing can come from that. I like to call it unconditional self-love. So we usually learn as conditioned self-love. Like, I'm gonna love myself once I achieve this. I'm gonna love myself once I healed. And then it's interesting because it can even slip into the healing and meditation and spiritual inner work kind of world. So then it can change, it can kind of sound a little bit more spiritual. So it can be like, once I'm fully healed, then I can love myself. And all these things, they might not even be conscious. That all of these things might be unconscious. Like, I'm gonna heal and then, hey, I love myself. I'm gonna, once I meditate an hour per day, then I love myself. Right now, when I'm struggling, I can't really love myself yet. I need to become a better meditator first. I need to become more healed first, more conscious first. So it's very interesting because these same judgments that we used to place upon ourselves, like maybe in the past it was, I'm a bad person, I'm selfish, and maybe as we are doing more meditation and inner work, it might shift a little bit to, oh, I'm so unconscious, I'm not in the moment, I'm in my ego. So then the judgment can still be there, but it just sounds more spiritual now. So yeah, it's so radical to really just allow yourself to be as you are, just for a short moment. It doesn't mean that you can't learn and improve yourself, that you won't grow, just for a tiny moment, just in this moment. Just a tiny split second of allowing yourself to be exactly the way you are. Allowing yourself to be unhealed, to be blocked, to be stuck in patterns. Because what I actually experienced was, the more compassionate I could be with myself and love myself through all experiences, the easier it was actually for things to start healing within me. Because what I discovered is that healing happens in the presence of love. And love is the absence, and I'm not just meaning like romantic love. I mean love as the absence of judgment. Love is beyond opposites. Judgment is always in the world of good and bad, right and wrong. And when we have this judgmental attitude towards ourselves, of judging ourselves as good and bad, then no true healing can take place. We might be able to change our behavior, change how we feel, but that will be on the surface level. Deep healing is really to remove all self-judgment for a moment. And from the space of no judgment, there's an honesty that can take place, an honesty with ourselves, and we will be able to start to see things and notice things that we haven't seen before, and we can get in touch with the root cause of our emotional, mental, physical suffering. Because it's like the inner child within us can feel safe to open up and share what is going on, what it's affected by, what it's hurt by. Yeah, I'm not sure if any of what I'm saying makes any sense. So if you want, I'm just going on, I could just speak about this forever. So I would love to hear from you in the comment section if any of this resonates, what your insights are from listening to this. Because I want to make sure I'm in alignment here still. Okay, glad to hear it makes sense, Lisa. I really like this inner child way of seeing things, because everything that I just said, it is very intuitive when we look about it from the perspective of the inner child. Oh, glad it profoundly resonates, Noni. That's beautiful. Glad it resonates with you, Priscilla. So, when we are children, when we are babies, we haven't learned yet to fight against what we're feeling. We haven't learned yet to resist the flow of emotions, the flow of life moving through us, right? So a baby will cry when it wants to cry, it's screaming, it's having all these intense emotional experiences, and yet it is at peace in itself, as long as it has, its basic needs met. They're so at peace, right? They're so in bliss. And this is what I'm speaking about when I'm saying we can be at peace with whatever is happening